killing after killing.
They're taking down the crime scene.
Victim
Why my baby?
after victim.
She trusted anybody. Everybody was her best friend.
It would prove to be the deadliest year in Anchorage's history.
People were getting murdered and people were afraid.
Some murders linked by a common thread.
I have heard that there might be a serial killer.
I guess he could have been hearing voices. Like, what were the voices telling him?
How do you grieve about that, you know? It's like, I just want to go to his dead body and still strangle him.
Is there evidence that they're related to a serial killer?
And a surprising connection.
I never thought that it would be a person that I knew and grew up with.
This was his home. That's him, walking down the street. Do you see how his hand is like his tucked in his coat? I think he had the gun in his hand.
We don't want to broadcast that is the linkage and give the offender the advantage of changing weapons, changing pistols.
I saw him with that bike, riding that bike, and he just smiled at me.
And not one, but 3 eyewitnesses to a cold-blooded execution.
She saw the first part of the gunfire from back in the other room.
I saw the guy fall to the ground and then took the bike and just biked off.
Off into the night, blending in. A killer among us.
One thing I like about Alaska is that there's really nice people out here.
Ask anyone in Anchorage why they love living here.
Hiking, go fishing. It's nice weather.
There are many trails to choose from.
A lot of good places you could take kids to go play.
I appreciate the unity.
It's safe here.
People like to say the city of Anchorage is just a short drive from the real Alaska. A land of mammoth glaciers, crashing tides, and world-class hunting. But there's plenty of wildlife here along the city streets. The great outdoors can still be found among the office towers, concrete, and corner stores. And for many, it's the reason they choose to live in Alaska's largest city, population 300,000. But what happens when the city's parks and trails turn deadly?
Are we actually safe? It doesn't feel safe.
I use these trails. I'm a member of the community as well, and like everyone else, I want to have answers. You have to believe that we are doing our best to solve it.
If you say don't go out, then we've failed as a society. We've given up our public space.
Like so many Alaska stories, the mystery began in winter, or so it seemed. An icy January morning.
Anchorage police received a call at about 8:30.
A popular trail overlooking the salt water of Cook Inlet.
They had found a body at Point Warrenzoff.
While investigating, police were shocked to find a second victim, a young man left to die in the cold. The victims? 19-year-old mother, Selena Mulinax, and a charming but dangerous young man who was supposed to be at home on house arrest. Oni Aber Morissette, with no witnesses.
We just need closure. Some type of closure.
And little to connect the victims.
That was the first I'd ever heard of going out there. Mm-hmm. I never heard of the kids she was with that night either.
The case went unsolved as winter turned to spring to summer. Across Anchorage, the news of more killings followed.
At least 3 people were inside the South Anchorage home where a man was shot and killed today, and what the occupants described as an attempted home invasion.
Good evening, everyone. We have developing news at this hour. Anchorage police are at the scene of a fatal shooting in South Anchorage.
In most cases, there were soon suspects, arrests, answers.
He is charged with murder and tampering with evidence.
They were having words of some type, back and forth, back and forth.
He called police to report that his girlfriend was not breathing. Today, 37-year-old Jeffrey McCracken is accused of killing her.
And then, another early morning discovery on another picturesque walking path. 7:40 a.m. on July 3rd. A cyclist spots 2 bodies lying on a trail near the outskirts of downtown.
We had gotten a tip from someone who was camping and said that they were walking their dogs. They had heard what they believed to be 6 shots.
The dead included Brianna Foisey, a sometimes homeless 20-year-old with a learning disability
But when it came to music, she could remember anything.
who loved to sing.
I was cooking for 4th of July, and I was getting ready to go to a friend's 4th of July barbecue, and the trooper showed up. The trooper said, "We need to come in. Can we sit down?" So I thought something's really wrong. So he came in and he said, "I'm here to notify you that your daughter's deceased."
Brianna had struggled with drugs for years, according to her friend.
All I know is she told me that she was on a bad trail and she needed to get off that path.
Her trust, I mean, she trusted anybody. Everybody was her best friend. You know, she had a really hard time seeing a dangerous situation for what it was.
The other victim, 41-year-old Jason Netter, who lived on the street too, sleeping, hidden in a junkyard, only 2 blocks from the trail where he died.
You guys lived in here?
We live in here. It looks like someone already took the barbecue grill that we had.
Was this kind of the living place for you and Jason for many years?
I've been in this connex for like 3 years with Jason.
Just like the January double murder that began the year along a coastal trail, police had few, if any, leads.
We do not have any suspect information to release at this time, nor have we made any arrests.
Stating once again, there is no apparent connection between the victims of this July killing.
We do know that they knew one another. As far as the exact extent of their relationship, we don't have that information at this time.
Though detectives found plenty of surveillance video from the area, not a single frame showed the killer or killers.
No one passed by on the video that would have been our suspect.
As for a possible motive, well, Jason Netter had a reputation for making enemies.
I don't like to talk smart to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, and he likes to run his mouth like that.
What kind of drugs was he into at the time?
Meth, heroin, spice, marijuana, alcohol. His mouth gets him in a lot of trouble.
And Anchorage had its fair share of trouble. Gangs responsible for so many killings in the 1990s were once again making their presence known in the city. Police used social media accounts, including these, to document evidence in criminal cases being prosecuted. Anchorage, like many cities in the country, was also in the grip of a heroin and opioid crisis.
The unfolding tragedy of Alaska's heroin epidemic is ruining the lives of too many Alaskans. It's breaking families apart, it's driving up crime.
Was Netter's death a drug deal gone bad? Brianna Foisey, an unlucky bystander.
He has a handful of enemies for doing crappy deals.
Friends thought so, like former roommate Gary Lose, who said Netter sometimes walked the long way to the nearby soup kitchen to avoid people he had crossed.
All I can think of, like I said, dirty drug deal, man, went down. That's what my gut's saying.
Perhaps a motive. Yet the case remained unsolved.
With that first incident on Post Road with the double homicide, we don't have a whole lot of evidence gathered, particularly from that scene.
And then, just 3 weeks later, at 3 a.m. on July 29th, another outdoor murder. 21-year-old Travion Kendall Thompson is gunned down on a lonely street bordering the woods.
He was house sitting for my sister. He was just gonna go down, let her dog out, and come right back home.
He was just staying here, basically babysitting the dog.
But Travion Kendall, or Trey, was no gang member according to his family.
He was a good kid. Like, he was a smart kid. Like, you know, just really caring. Would give anything to anybody. Like, my baby used to bring home, like, homeless people. He'd bring home anybody and just feed them.
No guns, no drugs. When he wasn't at work, he filled his hours playing computer games. Who would want Trey dead?
As big as he was, as tough as he wanted to seem, he was a big jokester with a big heart, and yeah, he was a giant nerd.
That's one thing he was good at, staying out of trouble. He'd rather ride his bike and go catch some Pokemons or something, rather than going clubbing.
Trey had seemingly chosen a different path than his father, Bobby Thompson.
I just got him in the mail.
Who was serving time on drugs and weapons charges 360 miles away in Fairbanks. When family called to tell Bobby his son had been killed, it made no sense to him.
More upset than anything because I didn't know who did it. And if I ever found out, it was just like, well, I can't do nothing because I'm in jail.
And was that something that you kind of wanted for him? Did you want him to kind of stay out of trouble?
Yeah, because I don't want him to be like his pops now, or his other uncles or brothers or whatever, so I wanted something different for him.
But Trey's case was different from the other recent outdoor murders that had gone unsolved.
This is where the investigation starts to take a critical turn.
The body was
This time, there were witnesses.
maybe even 6 feet over, right? And it was like right where the rain gutter is where he was laying.
Through this window, what did she actually witness?
She pretty much saw everything.
He looked, but he didn't see us.
And what they saw was shocking. Friday, July 29, 2016. Already 17 murders in Anchorage in only 8 months, a record pace. Among the most unnerving, 2 unsolved outdoor double homicides. But tonight, the street felt safe in this woodsy East Anchorage neighborhood. 3 13-year-old girls were having a sleepover, up well past midnight,
Every once in a while, I kind of have flashbacks still.
and still playing outside. Not so unusual in the land of the midnight sun,
We're just like making music videos and stuff.
when they noticed something or someone.
We were looking down this one road, and there's like someone like standing over by the fire hydrant below a light pole.
Someone who didn't belong.
It's kind of like a black shadow, creepy.
We get a lot of homeless people who live out in the woods back here. So I think he was just kind of lingering and waiting for an opportunity.
Then a second man appeared, younger, on a bicycle.
We saw someone on the trail with a bike, and it kind of creeped us out, so we just went inside. Went straight to my room and then turned the TV on and watched TV.
Moments later,
We heard like gunshots, so we went to the window to see what was going on.
shot after shot.
I heard like 4 gunshots, so then we went out to the living room and looked through the window. I saw the guy like fall to the ground, and then the other one took the bike and just biked off with like a gun in his pocket.
You could see the gun in the pocket.
Yeah, he was holding his hand in the pocket with the gun. Then we opened the door to go see if there's a dead body or not, and there was.
The body of Trey Thompson, the video game-loving 21-year-old who, according to family, was only in the neighborhood to check on his aunt's dog. He died just yards from her door.
After it initially happened, before the cops got here, we were all we saw him in the road. It was very sad.
I don't get him. Because my kid, apparently he didn't even look at him. Like, he didn't even glance his way.
Police say the girls are heroes because while it was getting dark, the teens noticed things. Details that could help detectives, like the killer's clothing,
He was wearing a camouflage jacket, and I think he had a backpack.
his hair,
Wavy shoulder, like a little bit shorter than shoulder length hair, and was like dirty blonde.
his face.
He was taking things kind of slow. He just kept on looking straight.
For hours, the teens worked with an FBI sketch artist.
How close did the sketch look to you, like the person that you saw?
It was really close.
But police weren't quite ready to release that drawing to the public, and they couldn't find any reason someone would murder the good-natured young man.
We started to see where Mr. Thompson had been. We know that he had been with family members and had not provoked or done anything that would lead to have him in this confrontation.
There was also surveillance video that captured an image of the shooter, enough to provide another clue.
The Alaska State Troopers were able to do some calculations and some experiments to determine that this individual was a particular height.
Tall, maybe 6'3", and he had calmly ridden away on Trey's distinctive yellow mountain bike.
It was like bright yellow, had certain stickers. It wasn't, something that would blend in easily.
Or we thought that people would see yellow. We thought that they would maybe clue in on it, we would see it, maybe collect it as evidence.
And he kept the gun. All clues that could help solve the case, but police decided to keep them secret, at least for now, at the suggestion of the FBI.
The Behavioral Analysis Unit made several specific recommendations to us.
In a rare interview, FBI criminal profilers sat down with us to discuss their involvement in the case.
In this particular instance, as we do with many serial cases that we get involved with, our advice was to not broadcast this as a series, specifically that it was attributed to a single offender.
Despite the clues and a sketch, weeks passed without an arrest in Trey's murder. Families mourned, while Anchorage residents grew more and more uneasy.
This is really hard. I miss my kid.
And then just 1 month later, on August 29th,
they are opening up the area at the trailhead.
2 more bodies found outdoors, this time in the middle of a beloved public park in the heart of Anchorage, named Valley of the Moon. 34-year-old Kevin Turner had recently become homeless.
Mr. Turner was sitting in the pavilion area and was attacked. He was shot. I think he was just sitting there working on his, with his socks and shoes and stuff, and he was probably minding his own business, and he was shot one time.
Kevin's brother, Billy Ray Turner.
We're so devastated that somebody had taken his life, and it hits us all so deep, that somebody could do such a terrible thing in the city. My brother was my hero.
The other victim, 25-year-old Bree DeHuson, was a local activist.
At midnight, when the law goes into effect, we have as many people as we can sitting outside of City Hall.
Seen here in 2011 while protesting a city law banning the homeless from sitting on city sidewalks.
He was just a really gracious, near-perfect human. And it's going to be really hard for me to fathom how something evil could have been bestowed upon him.
Police believe he was simply passing through the park.
Traveling down the trail and not associated with Mr. Turner at all.
He had done that route 100 times.
And was likely just shot from a distance.
2 days later, after the latest double homicide, police finally issued a public alert using an online platform known as Nixle, telling Anchorage residents to be extra aware of their surroundings and to avoid traveling alone at night in parks, on bike trails, or unoccupied streets. What were Alaskans to think?
Chief, recently there was a Nixle sent out, kind of a cryptic Nixle.
There's nothing unusual about this. We advise and try to keep the community informed as best we can.
Should the average person in Anchorage be worried? Are these tied together in any way?
We need the community's help so much.
But there was a strategy at play, police later revealed.
We wanted to provide that warning for folks, and we wanted to make sure that we kept the integrity of the investigation so that the gun was not disposed of.
Police Sergeant Slav Markiewicz is the longest-serving homicide detective in Anchorage. He says loose lips sink murder investigations.
Is there evidence that they're related to a serial killer?
We are investigating, and again, any talk about the serial killer is speculation. I don't want to use the word trust, but you have to believe that we are doing our best to solve it.
Anchorage police had already reached out to the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit in Quantico, Virginia. There, profilers recommended sending out the warning, but keeping important details of the case secret.
And that was early in the investigation, in which we weren't quite sure if it was a series. And in this situation, we felt that it was probably a better avenue to not link them and not create that additional stir in the media.
But on social media and in conversations with local news reporters, people who claim to have friends or acquaintances in law enforcement told a different story.
My doctor just told me there's a confirmed serial killer right now. He's friends with the detective on the case. All the recent killings since the beginning of the year of 2 people at parks, coastal trails, and secluded areas have been done the same exact way by the same 9mm gun. I feel as if it's important for all my friends to be aware.
What's next?
Fears boiled over at a neighborhood meeting with police at the very same park where 2 bodies had recently been discovered.
People were getting murdered and people were afraid.
Are we actually safe? It doesn't feel safe.
We really feel for you, and we're here tonight for you.
If you say don't go out then we've failed as a society. We've given up our public space.
It's tough out there. It really is, and you got to look out for yourself, and we got to look out for each other.
I have heard that there might be a serial killer.
The worst thing we can do is speculate and cause rumors to go about.
Impatience grew, and Trey Thompson's mother took to the streets to find answers and justice.
We went through all the homeless camps. We went straight to people's camps, opened them up, look, hello. I was determined to find him.
She and her sisters were out at all hours.
I would confront random people. Every guy that kind of matched the description that they said, I would follow them.
With little concern for their own safety.
I didn't care. Yeah. And I seen, what's his name? James.
Mandy Primo says she spotted the man she believed to be her son's killer, walking near the neighborhood of Airport Heights.
I seen him walking down DeBar. He went into that bank. I sat across the street by the Alaska Regional Hospital. I crossed over. I sat in the bank parking lot, and he kept staring at me. I called the lieutenant, and I told him, I says, dude, I know this is the guy. I know this is the guy. And I had my son in the car, and I was tempted to go up to him and say something, and he's like, you have your baby in the car. Don't say nothing to him. He's dangerous. Don't say nothing to him. I'm like, dude, I feel it in my heart. This is the guy. And I got my son's picture on the back of my truck, so I know he knew who I was. And he started walking back up the hill. I got pictures in my phone, and it looked like he had the gun in his hand.
How did you know it was him? Was it just purely from the sketch?
I felt it. Something came over me, and I felt it. That's him walking down the street. You see how his hand is like tucked in his coat, like it's longer than. I think he had the gun in his hand, and I didn't care. I did not care. I already told the cops I was going to plead insanity.
Trey's Aunt Randy lived in a nearby neighborhood. One day, a man who had recently started living across the street walked up to her.
He came up to her and was like, sorry for your loss. And she had no clue.
Randy had no clue that the man in front of her that day, trying to console her, was in fact a serial killer.
He was closer than anybody thought.
By the end of the year, his surprising identity finally revealed.
Looking at the sketch, it doesn't look nothing like the guy that Bobby knew when we were kids. Nothing.
A city on edge, a string of outdoor murders, a sketch from 3 young witnesses who saw the unthinkable. But they weren't the only ones who felt uneasy about what they had seen.
You know, you can get a feeling of somebody that's not friendly.
Richard Reyes lives in Airport Heights.
When I saw him with that bike, riding that bike, he just smiled at me. I called the police department, hotline. Some police officer was a woman, and I told her about it, but...
So many tips, more than 175 in all, so many potential leads. Were police looking for multiple suspects? Or was it the work of a serial killer? And if so, FBI profilers gave police insight into who they might be dealing with. They noted, for example, 2 of the killings occurred in places frequented by the homeless.
One of the things that we had from the behavioral analysis unit is that it was probably somebody who was at least on the fringes of either the homeless or the social service kind of mental health profession field.
After all, it wouldn't be the first time a serial killer prowled Anchorage. Bakery owner Robert Hansen hunted Anchorage women in the 1970s and 80s, killing at least 17, raping many more. Joshua Wade admitted to killing 5 people beginning in 1994.
Well, I was there just a year or so ago.
Handyman Israel Keys is believed to have used Alaska as his home base to plot murders here and in other states.
Israel Keys was an exception where he actually planned. It wasn't spur of the moment. And he did that over the years in different parts of the country.
Was it possible another serial killer was on the loose, taking aim on Anchorage's parks and trails? The most compelling evidence detectives had.
Really, through this whole investigation, that is absolutely the only clue that we had.
Ballistic reports had so far been kept confidential.
The only thing that we had at this point was the gun.
We don't want to broadcast that is the linkage and give the offender the advantage of changing weapons, changing pistols.
But police knew by now what the public feared. 5 outdoor murders, 3 different locations, all of them committed using the same .357 Colt Python revolver.
A relatively rare kind of a gun, so it was unique.
We had to hold that close to our vest because if it's disposed of, then if we did capture someone on another case, we would never be able to link the cases together.
Not to mention the same gun was used in all of the homicides. That was pretty smart.
The killer, after all, was probably listening.
People who commit these serial crimes keep an eye, and in fact, we've been able to verify that our suspect was watching the news and monitoring things that were going on in the investigation.
What we do know from our experience with the behavioral analysis folks is that we don't want to provoke these people.
As for the double homicide that began the year on that cold January morning at Point Warrenzoff, police eventually cracked that case, unrelated. But that still left 2 double homicides and the murder of Travion Kendall Thompson unsolved, all taking place within 2 months and a 6-mile radius, all now tied to the same weapon, wielded by a man witnesses had seen in East Anchorage, the man in the sketch.
Is this person out there waiting to strike again, or do they have him narrowed down? Do they even have suspects?
It would prove to be a chance encounter that eventually broke the case. "4:30 a.m., November 12, downtown Anchorage. 2 months after the double homicide at Valley of the Moon Park, a 911 call to police.
A report of a cab defraud. In other words, somebody took a cab ride, didn't pay for the cab, and split and left the area.
A 38-year-old patrol officer, Arn Solau, checked it out. Driving downtown, he spotted a man in the early morning darkness.
Walking down the sidewalk that was in the area, kind of in the general area of where our suspect would be, commanded him to stop.
Sir, Anchorage Police, can I get you to stop?
But the man kept walking.
Officer Salau eventually turned on his overhead lights, and I think the suspect probably thought he was cornered at that point.
11:30, does want to stop? I'll try to come off here at Hope Depot. This is the Anchorage Police. You need to stop. This is the Anchorage Police. You need to stop.
And I realized he wasn't going to be allowed to leave. And that's when the shooting started taking place.
Bullets whizzing around.
And police dashboard cameras caught it all.
What we see is Mr. Ritchie approaching Salau's car, firing a gun at him. Salau literally flies out of his car. I don't know a better word to describe it. Flies out of his car, returning fire.
I heard the gunshots, 6 or 8 gunshots, and that's when the police officer was emptying his chamber. I got to the window, and I just saw the police officer running after the guy, but he was already on the ground.
Officer Salau was shot 4 times.
The bullets traveled and went up into the middle of his body, fracturing bones, ripping apart muscle.
But police say he never stopped fighting.
He immediately returned gunfire and physically fought off his assailant.
Then 2 more cop cars popped in, blazing with their lights on.
Another officer, Sergeant Mark Patsky, joined the gunfight.
He was able to charge forward and return fire as well.
The suspect was killed. The officer rushed to the hospital to undergo life-saving surgery. Police have not released surveillance video of the gun battle that night, calling it disturbing.
It's very horrific. It's shocking.
And when the gunfire ended, a revelation equally as shocking. one that would help put an end to the city's summer of fear.
I could tell immediately that he was a very tall individual. I saw the Colt python had been retrieved.
The man now lying dead on a downtown Anchorage street matched the description of the shooter who killed Trey Thompson. He even wore the same camouflage jacket. Ballistics would seal the case.
It was completely happenstance that the officer ran across Mr. Ritchie. It was just blind luck.
Trey Thompson's dad agrees.
All the cops are supposed to be out there doing their duties and whatnot, you know what I mean? I believe, honestly, they'd have never found out who did it, you know what I mean, if that situation never happened.
5 months would pass before police formally accused James Dale Ritchie, age 40, of all 5 murders, saying he acted alone in each of the killings.
One thing I can tell you, this murderer, it's the worst possible thing.
They had looked at other potential suspects, and Mr. Ritchie wasn't really on our radar up until Saturday morning.
James Ritchie was known on the street as Tiny.
I don't know where that came from, to tell you the truth. I mean, Bobby could probably tell you, but he wasn't tiny.
And the final surprise? Tiny was no stranger to the Thompsons.
We was watching the news at 10 o'clock news and it came on, and when I seen the picture, I didn't buckle. Like, what the, dude, what? The next morning, I couldn't wait to get on the phone.
He was no outsider to Anchorage either.
I couldn't wrap my head around it, and I kind of told Bobby that I can't wrap my head around him doing this. I can't. We've known him for a long, long, long time.
He had grown up here, a son of the city he stalked.
This was his home. Tiny was part of the crew.
Once a young man full of promise, an A student, according to his mom, a champion athlete at East High School in the 1990s. This is the voice of Ritchie's mother.
He was a good student. He played sports. He was constantly busy in activities and had planned to leave and go to college.
Ritchie even played high school football alongside future NFL player Mao Tosi, also winning a state basketball title with future NBA player Trajan Langdon. And the police officer that Ritchie shot, Officer Arn Solau, also attended the same high school. He was a freshman the year Ritchie graduated.
He came home and something happened. I don't know what.
Old friends struggled to make sense of it all.
Just because he had that gun doesn't mean that all those murders that happened with it were from him.
They have a substantial amount of evidence that said that this was this individual. They're not going to do that. Do I believe that it was Tiny? Yes. Bottom line. I think the unresolved anger and the disbelief comes from he's already dead, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Got a good supporting family out there.
Bobby Thompson, Trey's father, couldn't believe the man he once knew as Tiny killed his son.
He was cool, man. He was my brother Quincy's best friend.
Childhood friends, more like family.
Did he ever live with your family? Did he ever stay?
Yeah.
He did live with you guys?
Yeah, days, weeks, whatever. Whenever he wanted to come over to the house, he'd come over. That's my mom's son. She loved him.
Tiny held his son. There's pictures of Tiny holding Bobby's kids.
Tiny left and went to wherever he went for college. So for him to come back to Anchorage and, go through all that, it just doesn't make sense to me.
No one could have guessed how James Ritchie's life would unfold. Despite his smarts, 1,200 on the SAT, and his athletic abilities, Ritchie had a dark side, which his mother addressed in a 1998 court case against him.
I didn't even want to be around him. I didn't want him in my house. I just felt like he was just a time bomb waiting to either be killed or to be in jail for the rest of his life.
But what pushed James Dale Ritchie to kill not once, but 5 times? Anchorage could now sleep a bit easier. The man accused of shooting and killing 5 people at local parks, trails, and empty streets was now dead. But who was James Dale Ritchie? How did the life of this once star athlete go so wrong? Police say his motive died with him, leaving only memories and hints behind.
This is where I first met him. This is what he looked like.
Relics of a dream derailed. State championships, good friends, respect. But there were also stories of violence.
You know, these kids pit their pit bulls together for fights and stuff, you know. Or I remember he told me one time that one of his dogs, or somebody's dog, got a hold of a rabbit and killed it. And when he told me about it, it was just like his mom. He was crazy looking when he said it.
A lawyer who represented James Ritchie in a late 90s drug case is heard telling the judge that Ritchie tried, but failed, to join the football team at a West Virginia university.
He was a young man who, even though his grades weren't excellent, scored 1,200 on the SATs. And even though junior colleges and small colleges were recruiting him to play ball, he felt that he wanted to play Division I ball.
Ritchie declared chemical engineering as his major. He didn't set easy goals, his lawyer said.
He found himself on the East Coast at a school in which he wasn't playing ball and started struggling and basically quit going to class.
And when he fell short, he returned to Alaska, tumbling headfirst into a life of drugs and crime. In 1996, Ritchie was charged but not convicted of promoting animal fighting. Ongoing accusations followed of dealing crack cocaine and theft.
The kids sold drugs off and on. That's something that, you know, is knowledgeable. They all did it. And they'd rob people that sold drugs. They'd rob them for their drugs and their money.
Even kidnapping.
He was involved in a drug invasion, or a drug-related, apparently home invasion robbery, and kidnapping, in which he was involved with taping up a completely innocent person when that robbery went astray.
In a 1998 letter asking for leniency while facing felony drug charges, Ritchie told a judge he wished he had gone to a small school and played sports. I lay in bed every night thinking about how I've ruined my life, Ritchie wrote. Then I sit up crying, wishing I could go back to when I was in high school. Despite his rap sheet and the fact he sometimes carried a handgun, friends never thought Ritchie capable of murder.
He was a good-hearted person that he loved people.
He's a cool dude to hang out with. That's not him. That's not his get down. That's not his MO.
Most of them, to have a weapon or a strap as it would be only for show. Most of them weren't clappers. Placed in a situation, they would probably fight versus shoot someone.
To old friends, he was only dangerous to himself. His own mother admitting she was relieved when Ritchie spent months behind bars in his early 20s. It meant he was off drugs and off the streets, she told the court.
I felt he was safer in jail than he was in the street.
But after years spent in and out of prison and halfway houses, Ritchie moved back in with his parents, who now lived in Virginia. And for a while, he seemed to flourish. Broadway, Virginia, a small town of farms and churches.
This is just a quaint little place, people to live in, nice neighborhoods, nice people.
Next-door neighbor, Alan Hottinger.
We never called him Tiny, we always called him James. Super nice guy.
Hottinger was impressed with the confident, capable Ritchie, so eager to help.
My daughters, when they went to school, had an issue with computers, they'd rely on James, and James would just jump in there and help them out.
Even if Ritchie wasn't always the first to speak.
Not very outgoing, but I mean, when you would speak to him, he would speak, and he'd carry on a conversation and stuff with you.
Ritchie took classes at nearby Blue Ridge Community College, earning an associate degree when he was 37 years old.
He wanted a chemical engineering job, and like I said, he was just super intelligent.
He went to college. He straightened his life up really good.
There was even a relationship.
He had a girlfriend, I guess, and then they split up, and that kind of soured him on wanting to stay down there, I think.
But by early 2016, Ritchie had returned to Alaska.
He always missed Alaska. This was his home, and he missed his friends and stuff and wanted to come back.
For a time, neighbors say Ritchie appeared to be staying at a home in Airport Heights. A man who lives there now said he was old friends with Richie, but didn't want to talk on camera. Others say they noticed Richie in the neighborhood, but thought little of it.
Next door.
Next door?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Don't know if it's true.
The FBI says certain behaviors were once thought to be common traits among young men who would become violent predators, but now consider that science outdated. Today's FBI profilers, including those who worked on this case, have moved away from looking for suspects who share those traits. There are too many different kinds of serial killers, they say.
There's no common precursors. For example, there's nothing that says that somebody is going to commit the serial killing, because that then begs the question, well, why couldn't we come up with a way to prevent it?
It's unclear if Richie exhibited warning signs, but that hasn't stopped neighbors from second-guessing anything that later seemed out of place.
When I wasn't here one day, my wife, not my wife, but my daughter had food trucks going to her bedroom window. Of course, it scared the heck out of her.
While court records indicate Richie had at one time taken antidepressants, police have not yet divulged whether doctors ever diagnosed him with a mental illness. Acquaintances in Alaska say Richie's family had described his odd behavior in the time leading up to the killings, but those family members declined to be interviewed by the media.
I knocked on the door and a man answered, said no thank you, and closed the door and locked it. So it's clear to me that they don't want to talk today.
In April 2017, 5 months after Richie was killed in the gun battle with officers, Anchorage police tied up loose ends.
Today, police confirm that the same man pulled the trigger in all 5 cases.
We know one thing's for sure, that this serial killer that killed my brother is caught, and he can't do no more harm. And it feels like our parks are safe once again.
Yet questions still remain.
I can't wrap my head around him doing this.
He came home and something happened. I don't know what.
Why my baby?
Police could not or would not offer a motive.
They just think he was a highly disturbed individual. That's kind of one of the things I've had to come to terms with, is that, him being gone, we will never know.
Others say motive doesn't matter.
This man had no heart. He had no feelings for people around him, and he killed for fun. I mean, just for fun, like a sport.
I think it was more so, serial killer's mind, being a predator. He saw the opportunity and he took it.
Fear now subsiding. No matter the reason, there was now a chance for closure.
I didn't have to worry about someone going around shooting people anymore.
People like that are better off, not in the world anymore. So I think it's, in a way, almost a blessing that the cop was able to, get him, because he caused a lot of harm and a lot of heartbreaking stuff for a lot of people,
It was like a relief feeling that I didn't have to worry about it.
But for the victims' families, the pain remains, and the memorials.
As much as she likes
Marcella Foisey started a project that helps homeless youth in honor of her daughter Brianna.
Aww.
And the police officer who was shot by Richie yet heroically fought back?
Hi, it's Officer Slough.
A miraculous recovery.
I want to thank everybody for everything that they've done for myself and my family, my APD family, my law enforcement family.
And there were also thank yous to the 3 young eyewitnesses who stepped forward.
It's a letter that pretty much states she helped solve the murder by providing such an accurate sketch of the perpetrator. Because, they wound up being able to catch him after he got into the gunfight with that cop.
Your courage to come forward and provide information sparked nearly 200 tips about the suspect.
Thus closing the book on the most dangerous year in Anchorage history. The snow has since thawed on another winter, and life is once again returning to Anchorage's trails.
Okay, so we're here at Valley of the Moon Park.
Did the killings last year make you feel unsafe at all?
Definitely glad there was a connection made, because then it was known.
Do I feel safe in Anchorage? Yes.
Dedicated, people who are here to serve the public and protect, and they follow through with it.
It's safe here.
It's beautiful. I appreciate the unity.
What we're trying to do here today at Valley of the Moon Park is just remember the lives of 5 people whose lives were cut short last year in Anchorage. 5 of the many homicides last year in Anchorage. And so this is kind of a moment of remembrance and a moment of silence for these particular 5 victims. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show each of these victims for about a minute or so, and you'll see that one of the families has joined us. And so I hope you'll like or share a heart and just remember some of the many homicide victims of 2016.